hotter the conflict, the greater the triumph.
A fiercest serpent may be overcome by a swarm of ants.
Lead me, follow me, or get out of my way. Age wrinkles the body, quitting wrinkles the soul.
Battle buddies.
Battle buddies.
The day I got the phone call Jam Master Jay died.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 on our Masters of the Air series.
One day we'll become the Masters of the Air.
One day I'll get that's fun. That's good.
Thank you.
Of the radio waves.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we're stoked that you're here. Hopefully you enjoyed episode 1. Episode 1 was a lot of laying the foundation.
A lot.
We wanted you to understand what the fuck, who the fuck people were, and how the Air Force started, and what are we dealing with, right? And so Kevin did in my opinion, wonderful job of laying that foundation for us.
If you don't believe us, try to read the first 4 chapters by yourself. It's hard.
You're not going to want to.
Unless you were in the Air Force. If you were in the Air Force, maybe it's easier. But I doubt it.
Please do, actually.
Yeah, the book's really good.
It's fucking spectacular.
Shout out to Donald L. Miller.
Yeah. So today, I'm going to be the way that me and Kevin did this was we split 2 chapters and we went back and forth. So last episode was chapters like 1 and 2 essentially, yep. And then this episode is going to be chapters 3 and 4. And what these chapters are going to focus on is how fucking dangerous it was to fly in these planes at the time.
Electrocuting your balls.
Where that's yeah, shit is gnarly. We like to sit and make fun of the Air Force these days. We call them the Chair Force, but holy fuck, they dealt with I wouldn't want to do this.
It's really, because I only hear the jokes, right? So I only know a couple of the jokes from all the different servicemen and women in my life that have interacted with me. So like I knew about submarines, right? Like 24 sailors go down and 12 couples come up. Like I heard that one. And
that's
then
funny.
The Marines with a bunch of crayon eaters.
Yes.
And
yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Air Force, they rough it so hard in those hotels.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But Air Force and the 8th Air Force is they are bananas brave.
I would have rather been infantry than been in the 8th Air Force.
Oh, really?
By a lot.
I don't know. There's something about like squadron, like community. There's a part later on where they talk about like, it's the closest you can get with other humans. It's just a shame you have to fucking be at war for it. Like, I do, I like the idea of like, I'm going to protect you, you're going to protect me. But I guess infantry has that too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And the ground. They have the ground.
They do have the ground.
So, yeah, where we last left off with Kevin was he was essentially explaining all of the main characters that you'll be hearing in this series with us. So, let's fucking get to it, shall we?
I'm ready.
All right. Here we are. Chapter 3, The Dangerous Sky. All right. September 6th, 1942. Paul Tibbets was still leading the 8th Air Force, and their target was an aircraft factory in northern France. The Germans' Luftwaffe showed up in the full force this day. It was the first time that the 8th Air Force would experience traumatic loss in front of their own eyes. Miller quotes, "By fiery piece as they dropped through the empty air, quote, he was a wonderful kid," Tibbets wrote later, and his death shook me up. Up to now, the war was a game to us. We took off, dropped our bombs, and always returned safely. We thought we were supermen, and that we were beating the odds with our skill in the sky. That was how stupidly inflated our confidence was until we watched Paul's plane spin out of control and burst into a ball of flame. In Tibbets' plane, no one said a word on the interphone. Everyone silently pictured himself in Paul's shoes. As the 8th was returning from a bomb run, a Luftwaffe air formation entered Tibbets' immediate airspace and rained bullets upon them with the likes of which they have never seen so far in this war. This is the first piece of action that they're seeing.
Yeah. Because again, their Spitfires are not able to escort them anymore because the planes can fly. The bombers are going too far.
Yeah. Now, there was a carnage of metal shrapnel flying through the cockpit of the 8th Air Force's bombers. They referred to them in the book as flak.
Yes.
An entire control panel had flown off of its seams. Tibbets remembers getting metal shrapnel seeped into his skin from the violent chaos of incoming bullets. Lieutenant Gene Lockhart, the co-pilot, took the worst of the damage. His entire fucking hand was blown off, with blood spraying all over the cabin. The turbulence only meant one thing for these men. It wasn't like me when I'm on a Southwest flight down to San Diego and I start to piss myself when we hit a little bit of bumps in the air. No, this ride took all of Tibbets' muscle and strength to keep the vessel on course while it was being pummeled with incoming fire from the Luftwaffe. This is when military training kicks in and the men do their jobs in the hopes that they stay alive. The chances of survival were slim, but they'd be even more slim if they didn't proceed with measure, bravery, poise, and aplomb. Revert to your training, as the military likes to say. In a fit of anxiety and terror, Colonel Newton Longfellow reached over the control panel and grabbed a bunch of throttles and turbo controls which slowed the engines down at 25,000 feet. Idiot.
Fucking Colonel Newton.
Tibbets was holding his co-pilot's controls and trying to calm him down since his goddamn hand was blown off, and this Colonel Longfellow was fucking shit up badly. Tibbets screamed at the top of his lungs to get his goddamn hands off the controls, but the cold air seeping in through all the holes made it impossible to hear. So, Tibbets elbows the fuck out of this colonel in the face and knocks him out.
Yes, he does. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I don't put it in here, but when they finally land, he puts his hand, one of his like lower ranking people in the plane puts his hand on the shoulder. He's like, "You did the right thing.
Yeah, you did what you needed.
You were absolutely supposed to knock him
He's
out."
not that is not like a one-off story, because there's going to be other guys that are high rankings, like colonels.
I get into it.
Yeah, that are going to do the exact same shit. You got to remember, folks. Well, I think two things that we have to say. One, these are not pressurized cabins, which is fucking crazy. And you have to remind yourself constantly. And we'll get into more of it later when we go over the how they invent air medicine.
Yeah.
But like every time they take off their gloves and then they touch something, they just
it sticks.
It sloughs. It just slides off because it freezes.
Yeah. It's fucking cold as shit in the air up there. So, a gunner got blasted in the head and fell on top of the knocked-out Longfellow. Once Longfellow came to, he put a tourniquet on Lockhart, the co-pilot who got his hand blown off, and eventually, they landed safely from the chaos of air combat. All wounded men received the Purple Heart and posed for pictures to be published in Life magazine. These are the dudes that got to be in the Life magazine. They're fucking famous, dude. Fucking famous.
Yeah, they were on Life. Oh, sorry. The second point that we have to remember, which is more about me not saying it the last episode, but the difference also right now is that they are doing daytime bombings.
Very true.
And we didn't make a clear enough point of that, I think.
Yeah, fair enough.
But Churchill is doing historically nighttime bombs, which is like it's always been what you do. And now we're doing daytime bombing, which is a whole new thing. You get to really watch your friends die slowly.
So nighttime bombing was considered much safer.
Yes.
Because you can't see them in the air, right? So America came in and was like, well, we need to be able to see what we're bombing, so we're going to be doing it to the day. And the British were like, no, don't do that. And we're like, we're fucking doing it. If you guys want us here, that's what we're fucking doing. So, dangerous. All right. Now, here we are in Lille. Can you see that right here? Kevin's pointing to Lille right there. That's France, northern France. Okay, so that's where we're headed to. This is October 9th, 1942. The next stop for the 8th Air Force was Lille, France. Lille was significant because there was a French rail and steel factory there that was feeding Hitler's war machine. Okay, so this is a solid target.
That is a solid target.
Yes. Now, Ira Eaker, had a considerably massive fighting force assembled to pull off this next mission. There were 108 aircraft ready for war, including the 24 B-24 Liberators, commanded by Colonel Timberlake, who would etch his name in stone as being one of the most successful commanders in World War II. There were also 400 fighters dispatched to cover the bombers. The Americans were what we like to call on the streets, rolling deep.
Rolling deep.
Rolling deep.
So that would be their combat wing.
Okay.
So they would take off. Though all those planes don't take off from the same airstrip, right? That's why there's a million fucking airstrips. Because they need to get all those planes in the air roughly the same time. So they all are from the same division. All those 200 planes or whatever. Is that 200 planes?
Something like that, yeah.
So they're all from the same division. Then they're all going to get timed. They're going to get woken up and told to go. And they all fly off. And then those are their bomber groups. And when they meet up, that's the combat wing. So that's what we're talking about here.
Beautiful context. Thank you.
Woo!
That episode 1 really just got us going.
Coming back.
The officers and pilots rolled into the briefing room to hear their objectives of their next mission. Some of the pilots legitimately remember certain parts of this area because of their service in the air during World War I.
Damn.
As Lieutenant McLaughlin and Major Keck approached their targets over France, the thick fog made it difficult to see their objective. They decided to head toward their second target in the hopes that visibility would be clearer. No such luck. Anti-aircraft fire started blasting them from under them. The right wing burst into flames and Major Keck went below the cabin for what the rest of the crew thought was to put out the fire. Instead, the Major was cowering in the fuselage, waiting to jump with his parachute when the aircraft eventually plummeted to its demise. This ended his fucking military career.
Yes, but can I say something on him?
Please do.
All right, wait, finish your thought on him, and then I'll give my little thought.
After this flight, McLaughlin turned in his wings and he never flew again.
Okay, so 2 things on that. One, this is like my favorite. I had to talk to my brother about this because I was just cracking up. It took over a year to ground him, technically.
Really?
The military bureaucracy. It took over a year, like going through like the channels and the paperwork, even though like the guy wasn't. He was in a bomber and he was sitting in the back of it holding his parachute, not doing shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucked up. That shouldn't take a year to be like, I don't think you're cut out for this.
Yeah. Dude, the military processes of the military just take fucking forever.
And the other thing with him that I feel kind of bad for is when they were asked, like, so he was like a legend, right? Coming into this, like, holy shit, we got this guy. And the other pilots were like, this is crazy. And they're asking him, like, dude, how did you do it in World War I at the end? And he's like, how'd you deal with the anti-air stuff? And he's like, there's no anti-air in World War I. He's like, I just would fly around and look at shit.
There's no, what?
And he seriously, and then they said during the briefing in the morning, he kept standing up being like, what? Like every time they would talk about the anti-air shit. They had that? They had to like shove him down. Because he was like freaking out. He's like, what are you guys talking about that they're going to blow us up from the ground? Like, what the fuck? Why are we doing that? Yeah. So I kind of feel bad for him because he's from a different era. The technology outpaced him.
Dude, that's really good insight.
Yeah.
That's good.
But, you know, if you are one of the higher ranking guys on the plane, you got to hold it together, not sit in the back of the plane.
It's true, dude.
You got to hold it together for your crew.
Yep. It's like the whole, the captain of the Titanic was like, I'm going to go down with this.
Yeah, I think like, I don't know, I wasn't in the military, but I would think that you have to play your rank. And if you are the highest ranking guy, you have to play that role when it's time to play that role. I mean, they talk about it in the book. The pilot is the highest ranking guy on the plane, no matter what anybody's fucking rank is.
I mean, it's just nice when choices don't. That out of all the choices that you have to make, that's when you don't.
Right.
You're like, oh, I just have to do this.
This is what I have to do for this to work.
But in his defense, I think this just goes to show how fucking terrifying this shit was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very, very scary. Again, like Kevin said, not pressurized cabins, super loud, super cold. Yeah.
And those guns tear through them.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be devastating.
Now, the bombing of factories in Lille was the first major brawl the 8th Air Force would experience in this campaign. Numbers were extremely hard to record because gunners could not accurately depict if they got a kill or not, as Kevin mentioned in episode 1. This made it difficult to figure out if our execution was working or not.
Yep.
You don't fucking know.
English weather sounds
awful.
And so, you know, we talked about it last time. the German fighters, when they would like turn and dive, smoke would come up, so they would think they hit them.
Yeah.
Also, it's the weather's shitty, so they could go below the clouds, and then they wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Because only the American like B-17s and B-24s could paint on the nose. All the other ones, like the Luftwaffe, I think all looked the same. Like they couldn't have, personalized decals and stuff.
Yeah, I believe in chapter 5, they talk about how the Marines and the Navy couldn't do that.
No,
it was like,
and they like loved when they saw that. That's cool. Like, you guys have pinup girls on yours.
Honestly, I was thinking about that this morning in the car. I was like, that is really cool.
It was cool.
Yeah, that's
absolutely
fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That men were like, let's put up sexy chicks.
Yeah,
like that's fucking cool as shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry for those who don't agree, but like, it's a really,
they named it after like their fiancés and stuff. Like that's cool.
It's
like,
an interesting aspect
Yes.
of the war, like an artistic, interesting thing. Now, each bombardier was equipped with the $10,000 Norden bomb sight that we showed in the earlier episode, but the expensive nature of the sight did not magically make clouds disappear. If clouds were there, accuracy was close to impossible to dictate. So declassified documents would later report just how inaccurate the Norden bomb sights would actually be. Unlike the metaphor of being able to drop a bomb in a pickle barrel, the accuracy was actually the radius of a 3/4 of a mile. The accuracy of these bombs were highly misrepresented in the media. Tons of French civilians would be killed as a result of the inaccuracies from the American forces, and they even accidentally bombed a hospital one time. Fucking wild.
I do like how they eventually switch away from the Norden bomb sight, but
We'll get there, right?
That's way later. Right now, they're just fucking it up.
Let's get to our next slide. All right.
And it's not the pilot's fault. We're not blaming the crews.
No.
This was...
No, they were just following orders,
This was
dude.
a planning thing.
Yes. This is a leadership thing.
Yeah.
Now, it was the positive media influence sprawled across magazines in the United States that would dictate the positive message the president would receive in regards to these bombings. The United States was the only air force in the world willing to drop bombs on Hitler's endeavors. This willingness would also pave some leeway for the United States when it came to its lack of accuracy.
Yep.
The public eye would view the 8th Air Force's daytime bombings in France as a huge success, but Germany felt quite opposite about the matter. All right, the Pens of Biscay. Where are we going? Oh, yeah. I got that little Gibraltar. Can you point to Gibraltar for me?
There he is.
Yep. In October of 1942, Paul Tibbets received word that they were going to be part of a top-secret airlift to Gibraltar, and none other than Dwight D. Eisenhower was going to be a part of this endeavor.
Yeah.
The mission was to help Operation Torch, as Kevin mentioned earlier, which was the invasion of North Africa during World War II. I am excited to learn way more about that.
Operation Torch is fascinating.
If somebody would have put a gun to my head when I was in the 8th grade and said, did we go to Africa in World War II? I'd have been like, no, I don't think so.
But it turned out it was like really, really fascinating fighting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 8th Air Force would use their knowledge to support the 12th Air Force in their tactical bombing campaign to support the 65,000 ground troops in North Africa. The tactical bombing would support infantry units and disrupt enemy supply lines. Useful.
Yep. And so that tactical bombing is that other one we were talking about. It's the one we're more okay with.
Yeah, truly.
It's an easier pill to swallow because it makes sense.
Truly.
A military target against a military target, those things are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Same,
but different.
Same.
Eisenhower quickly drew up a new objective for the 8th Air Force to help support Operation Torch in North Africa. The objective? To hit Nazi U-boat pens. Pens are essentially just bunkers, folks. Nazi U-boat pens in France's Bay of Biscay to keep the Atlantic supply lines open to Allied forces in North Africa. If any of you have seen the Greyhound movie with Tom Hanks, that's what it's about. It's about all the submarines that were fucking up American forces going across the Atlantic. So yeah, for those of you who don't know what a U-boat pens is, myself included, it's a bunker for submarines to park in so they don't get hit from the air. It looks like exactly what's behind me, and guess what? That's still standing to this day. The
It's
ones we're
so
gonna be-
much concrete.
Bro. Churchill himself said that the U-boat presence in the Atlantic was the scariest thing he had to deal with during World War II.
They were called like the Wolf Pack, man.
Yeah,
They were the wolves or whatever.
bro, it's fucking terrifying. Yeah. It's scary. Their U-boat bunkers were an engineering marvel. This was boasted as one of the biggest successes in World War history.
Yep, it really was.
It was built on slave labor and used 3/4 of the concrete that was used to build the Hoover Dam.
That's crazy. If you've ever been to the Hoover Dam, like, you would be awestruck. If you've only seen pictures of the Hoover Dam, you have no idea how big it really is. It's fucking massive.
It's big boy.
How many people died building the Hoover Dam? It was a lot. When I toured it, it was a lot.
Oh, did you tour it?
I think so. All right, my childhood is mostly just traveling America.
Now, bombing these bunkers was considered a high priority with a lot of fear of success. Theory would have it that these bunkers would not be penetrable by bombs, but the 8th Air Force believed high altitude would be able to fix any doubts on the matter. So on October 21st, the Air Force tried to drop bombs on the U-boat bunkers, and the bombs, quote, bounced off the bunkers like ping pong balls.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
The ones that even hit it.
Yeah. Frenchmen stood in the streets applauding America's precision. So, like, they were apparently...
They were doing it.
Yeah.
Well, because the first time they went, I don't think the Germans were really ready for it on that first run. Like, they didn't. There wasn't a lot of defense set up when they first went in there, and so they were able to get good shots.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't fucking matter.
No.
And they let the Germans know that they are interested in hitting those pins.
Correct.
Which doesn't
it
help
is,
later.
in theory, very smart. In theory.
In theory.
In late 1942, the German hierarchy considered this war on the U-boats a secondary war, a sideshow, and the Germans would make a massive mistake on not producing nearly as many airplanes as the United States. The United States had airplanes that could fly farther and carry more bombs. Germany would lose this particular battle, the battle of production.
Yeah. Well, and they were making planes, but they were all going to the Eastern Front. Because right around this time, I think, right, like 1943-ish, is this when Hitler is doing his big 3 million man blitz into Russia?
I don't know.
I think it's around that time. I'll look it up real quick. But
okay.
Hitler is committing, since he got France so quickly, like, all right, back it up. World War I, Germany's plan was, I'm going to kick France in the ass so fast that, because I'll go through Belgium and then I'll get them, I'll do that so fast that then I can turn to Russia. And that doesn't work because trench warfare turns out to be like a whole thing.
Yeah.
And so when they war game out for, like the 10 years that they did and they started World War II and they blitzkrieged, it works. And they're like, holy shit, it worked. So then they turn for Russia. And he commits 3 million men right away and they just start fucking running into Russia. So that's where he thought he had to be.
This was his big mistake, wasn't it?
That was
going into Russia?
I think, or at least staying in the winter.
Yeah, that was the big boo-boo.
But it's also because they're racist and they hate Slavs. Like, that's like a big part of it.
Oops.
God, the freaking war crime stuff about, it's almost as bad. It's on par with the Holocaust stuff.
You know what? My next sentence is literally going to answer your question.
Okay.
I say, most of Hitler's resources were spread across Russia and North Africa at the time.
Boom! We're not experts, but we know shit.
The war in the air was not something he could keep up with. Good job, Kevin.
Oh, because there is a really good Luftwaffe turned like commander in the U-boat pins who's like, dude, we need more planes because this shit's going to continue.
And he's like, nah.
And he's like, no.
Yeah, no. It's not the goal that I'm going for.
What's interesting too that I didn't realize before reading is that a bomber is an offensive weapon, because I think of it like a juggernaut. So I think of it as like a defensive thing for some reason in my head, but it's an offensive.
Oh, definitely.
But a fighter is only defensive. That's what it does. It's a defensive plane.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, the bomber I could maybe see as an offensive thing, but I cannot see the fighter as a defensive thing. I see it as an offensive screaming monster, but they're like, its job in World War II is to shoot down a bomber before the bomber can get to you.
Oh.
That's all it's there for.
Well, guess we're going to learn about some of the tactics right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, when they switch up their... Yeah, it's from that captain. He's the one that redesigns their tactics.
So
he's really smart.
Yeah.
That bastard.
That bastard indeed. Now, the main response Germany had to our air superiority was the German Focke-Wulf.
Yeah.
Sounds like fuck wolf.
It does sound like fuck wolf. I read it as fuck wolf for sure.
Yeah, it's like, that's a cool name. Like, what's your name? Fuck wolf. I just fuck like a wolf. The main tactics of this aircraft were to fly ahead of the American fortresses, turn around, and shoot them head on. It was highly effective, and created a lot of casualties and fear among the American Air Forces.
Because that was new. Because before that...
Nobody was doing that.
Before that, they would do, like, they'd start from the bottom, they go up, and they shoot down on them. Like, the idea historically, I think, with fighters is to get into the sun and then come down from the sun, or to do, like, a scissor thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy was just like, hey, their nose guns are hella small.
Yeah.
Like,
no, this is a very novel idea to be doing stuff like this. So Germany was smart.
Yeah, this commander was fucking on it.
Yeah. All right.
Is it bad that when I read like those commanders and stuff, I'm like, I hope you weren't racist too. Like, I hope that like you were honorable, like you just were a military dude from a different time, but you probably sucked.
Indoctrination's powerful. Very, very powerful. But that you're a sweetheart, Kevin. He says, I hope this Nazi's not one of the bad ones.
I mean, he still was pushing forth Nazi agenda, so who cares, I guess. But
Jesus Christ. Kevin, more people need to be like you, buddy. We have fun here. All right. The Memphis Belle. For those of you who have not seen the movie, Mr. Kevin over here included, fucking watch Memphis Belle. Hella good. I believe it's on Paramount Plus right now.
Okay.
Super good. I need to rewatch it as well.
We're going to watch some of them with my father-in-law.
Fuck yes. That's not...
And eat ribs. It's
Bro,
so excited
that sounds
for it.
like way too good of a day. The Memphis Belle had their first mission on November 7th to bomb a U-boat bunker. On its maiden voyage, the bombardier had a hard time calibrating the Norden bomb sight and completely missed the U-boat bunkers dropping bombs on a bunch of harmless land in France. When airmen were grounded, they were met on the tarmac with shots of whiskey and food. They would then have to debrief to their superiors and other intelligence officials precisely what they saw. This means that the trauma that they endured had to be experienced twice. Ironically, a lot of the airmen at the time talked a lot of shit about the army and how easy they had it, which is funny because it's like the opposite now, right? It's important to note here that these men were different than the rest of the military. Miller quotes, this is a Miller quote from the book. The crews were amazingly diverse. On one plane, the Hells Angels, there was a car salesman, a rancher, a government farm inspector, a gas attendant, a rodeo rider, a window dresser, a dance band trumpeter, a merchant marine sailor, a college student, and a professional traveler. Yet none of these men had joined the Air Force before Pearl Harbor, and only 3 had ever flown in an airplane before flight training in the States. 3.
That's crazy. And they kind of also, I think I'm right on this, but, rank isn't everything, but it is worth noting that every guy who's enlisted, who's like a gunner or anything, like they're a sergeant at least. Yeah. And everybody else is an officer. And so they're already like doing well.
Yes.
To get onto the plane itself. Yeah. Which is because sometimes.
Oh, this is a privilege.
No, absolutely. That's what I mean. Like, it's a big deal that every single guy on like 100,000 or whatever them that are on these planes are all like highly qualified.
100%. But and again, it's not like when we were doing our Thermopylae series when it was like, Spartans were like warriors. Like, no, these were just normal dudes.
Oh, yeah, they're just dudes. Almost all volunteers.
Greatest generation. Baby fat.
Baby fat. The baby fat of culture. That's what we've been saying.
Yeah. All right, let's go into thin air here. Let's go into thin air and not the amazing John Krakauer book. As with every other aspect of many different battles and war, oftentimes it is not the humans that are the only enemy, but rather the elements, as we learned in the Yadrang Valley. This was certainly the case with the 8th Air Force. The weather over there, as part of the world, only made it possible to bomb 20 to 30% of the time.
Yeah.
Only Alaska and the Aleutian Islands had similar visibility.
England sounds magical.
Yeah. Cheese whiz. Most missions were canceled due to weather. Men would often describe how traumatic it was to psych yourself up for a flight and then not have to go on it. Many airmen said that they'd rather fly than knowing that they were anticipating something that never came to pass. It was like driving people crazy.
No, because they all say, not all of them, but the majority of those guys say the worst experience of the whole mission is that fucking drive to the airstrip.
I honestly would have probably drank before. Well, see, that's hard too. I don't know. That sucks.
Yeah.
I would have been scared out of my mind.
Absolutely. They just were freaking out. Because then if it got canceled, it doesn't count. Later on, we'll learn about the 25 thing. Like, it doesn't count.
Catch-22, you mean? That shit? Yeah.
Well, you're
but
25.
That's what it's based off of.
Yeah.
That's what that concept is based off of. Now, if it wasn't the mental gymnastics, it was the elements, as mentioned before. If any of the technology in the aircraft was not working, it was the opportunity for men to die or get injured. They would wear electrical suits that generated heat and would constantly short circuit, sending shocks of electricity through their limbs and testicles. Their fucking balls would get electrocuted.
They're getting shot at by Nazis, and their balls are getting electrocuted on accident.
Yes.
Terrible.
As mentioned in our previous episode and earlier, remember, these are not pressurized cabins. Airmen would get oxygen sickness called anoxia, where they would throw up in their molded rubber masks and choke on their own regurgitations. It's fucking brutal.
It's crazy.
It's like an Eli Roth movie.
It's really, really, really bad. Like when Spencer was talking about that guy getting his hand blown off and him still trying to like work. That's not the only story that you read within even the first 5 chapters of people getting their arms blown off and still having to fly the airplane. Yes. A guy flies it without hands. He flies it with his elbow bones.
His nubs.
What?
Like this.
What? Like,
yeah, fucking crazy.
Ooh, so intense.
Yeah. So that was chapter 3.
Love it.
Chapter 3 is essentially just kind of talking about, their first mission and how fucking dangerous this all was. We're kind of learning on the fly here.
Yep.
Like, this isn't like we're going in and we're like, man, we have so much experience from doing air bombing missions. Like, no. We're changing on the go. We're, what is that term? Like building an aircraft as you're flying it or whatever?
Building a ship as it goes.
Building a ship as it goes.
And it does also validate some, like was our big critique of them last episode was they are pushing for this because they're afraid of everything getting taken away from them, right? And that they're making really theoretical calls about like how great this Norden bomb site's going to be and how good these daylight bombings are going to be, but they don't really know. Well, I mean, at the start of your chapter, they did get pulled for Operation Torch, and they are getting pulled for these U-boats, and that's not what they want to be doing. They want to be just going to Germany. Like, they want to be bombing and being apart from England and being the 8th Air Force, and they're being stripped of that. So they are valid. Like, they did call that they are going to be, people are going to be wanting their planes. Everybody's going to want their planes. Yeah. The Royal Air Force wants their planes, and so does everybody else that's running military campaigns in America, from America.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, editing this. My wife is texting me, so I have to text her back because she's scared that I'm not alive.
How do you know if you're alive? Oh my gosh, have you listened to the Andes one?
Oh, of course.
Dude,
great.
I just finished it. Them sitting there and saying, this would be so beautiful if we weren't dead. We're like, holy shit!
Yeah.
And then he couldn't figure out if he was dead or not, so he looked at his shadow, he's like, I have a shadow, so I don't think I'm dead.
Their history episodes are becoming my favorites.
They're by far their best.
They're their best, yeah. Alrighty, so look where we are at. We're at the North Sea, okay? The North Sea.
The North one.
Is east of, Britain, north of the Netherlands, and south of Norway. Just to kind of let you guys know where the North Sea is. So we're there. It's October 9th, 1942. All right, we're in Chapter 4 territory. On October 9th, when the 8th Air Force was doing their bombing run over Lille, Lieutenant Swenson was hit so hard by the Germans that they had to make a crash landing into the North Sea.
Yeah.
The radio operator shoved the rice paper that he had all the secret call letters and frequency down in his throat so that the enemy couldn't possibly get their hands on it.
What a badass remembering to do that.
It's dope. Now, landing on water isn't like that Sully movie with Tom Hanks. Airmen were briefed that landing on the water often resulted in a similar manner to landing on a brick wall. When the plane landed on the water, the crew flew all over the cabin in the North Sea. The crew gathered their self-inflating emergency raft. The plane sank in less than 3 minutes, and one airman tried to drown himself. He thought he was going to be a burden for the rest of the crew to save, so he tried to sacrifice himself in order to, once somebody had to give him a direct order to stop.
That is the craziest part of the story. He's like, oh shit, there's not a lot of rafts, and I should just kill myself to make it easier for them. And they had to scream at him for him to stop. That guy's story is wild.
It's crazy.
What?
Fucking crazy.
Their bond is like something else.
Yeah. Now, since the plane could not get off a proper Mayday before hitting the water, tons of friendly aircrafts, both British and American, sent approximations to headquarters where the downed plane's whereabouts were.
Mm.
A boat at sea picked up the distress signal and saved the crew in the North Sea. It was the first sea rescue of the 8th Air Force. And that little story is important because now we're going to get into like what it means if you're downed in Europe, Nazi-occupied Europe. So, if an airman was shot down over Europe during World War II, there was one main thing that they had to rely on. Allied friends willing to smuggle them out of Nazi-occupied territory.
Dude, we're about to hear some civilian bravery right here.
Crazy shit, dude. So, behind me is a map of what was called the Comet Line. The Comet Line was a massive underground railroad-type logistical phenomena. The 1,200 miles of escape routes was backed by the mastermind André de Jong, also called Dee.
No one like Dee.
This is Dee. For those of you ladies or men out there who are into like book talk or TikTok or whatever, Kristen Hanna is like an incredible author right now, and she wrote a book called The Nightingale, which is becoming a movie, and that is a fictional portrayal of this woman that we're talking about.
Historical fiction's the jam.
It is. She was a 25-year-old Belgian woman, and she was risking her entire life and family to help the Allied forces. Hero. She helped over 700 downed airmen escape Nazi territory.
With no support.
No.
She literally, they tried to give her money and support, and she said no because it might compromise my system.
Yeah. She's a badass, dude.
What a fucking legend.
She's a legend, yeah. So,
do you have what she does after this?
No, because I had to figure out like how
what to cut.
So
you
can tell me. We can talk about it.
After all this, like, so she's just an absolute legend. Her dad is a school teacher. Mm-hmm. She gets like captured for a bit. He takes over. He gets murdered for helping them out. She continues. After it, she ends up fucking working at a leper colony for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
And one of the pilots was like talking about her, and they're like, she was exposed to the tragedy of the world and couldn't let it go.
Yeah. Hella cool quote.
What the hell, man?
Yeah.
I hope I could be like that.
And full disclosure, her little story in this book has genuinely inspired me to, I think we should focus on more women of battles.
Absolutely.
Like
absolutely.
Yes. So, just shout out to women, dude. Fuck.
Dude.
Like, yeah. I know that a lot of men get, obviously, men write history, and, men are definitely the whole romanticized aspect of war, but World War II doesn't happen if women don't exist.
Absolutely.
Like, they're the ones who did all the production, and you got this woman. Like, shout out to the unknown heroes that,
Dude, it's interesting that it seems to me that the women that are getting told in stories, and like war stories specifically, are not always like the best characters to be chosen. Like, I don't get the character choices, because you have something like this. Like, why is it taking so long for her to get chosen? She's just like a clear like case of just an utter like amazing person, like a devastating person, like, right? She's going to change and warp the world a little bit. And there's other ones like that. Even when we were covering the Gaul, right? The Britain was ruled by a woman who was leading them into battle, like
the Druids
what?
And shit.
Yeah, like, what the fuck? There was like a Gaul British woman leading them. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
And Vikings, there were Viking women leaders and stuff. It is. We need to find the real ones, because the real ones I find way more interesting than like the romantic. Like, I don't want Hollywood to do more of like the Marvel thing, where like
No.
Marvel Endgame, where like we
No.
will protect her. Like
No.
That's- that's weird. That's a weird scene. do it, but like do it
It
better.
feels very
than that.
forced. It
Yeah,
feels very
do it
forced.
better.
Yeah, it feels very shoved in there.
They should have
So,
gone one more time around the writing room on that one.
the whole point is that women are badass.
They are. That's what I'm saying. Let's give them the real credit.
Yes.
Sorry, I
Shout
moved
out-
away from the point.
No, it's all good. That's the fun stuff. So yeah, we haven't forgot about women, and I'm just admitting that we should have covered that kind of stuff more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We'll get there. All right,
Back to men.
Mr.
Back to the real heroes.
Okay, Mr. Major Curtis LeMay.
Oh, that's LeMay?
This is LeMay, but like older, like in the
Yeah.
actual Air Force. Look at that.
Look at that guy.
Yeah. So this dude arrived in England in October of 1942 and changed the way that American bomber war was fought. LeMay was a character. So much, in fact, that Stanley Kubrick used him as the inspiration as one of the generals in his movie Dr. Strangelove. Before LeMay, the tactics of bombers was to swiftly make evading maneuvers to avoid getting hit by incoming enemy fire. LeMay decided that was the main reason nobody was hitting targets. So from there on out, the bombers would fly as straight as an arrow for 420 seconds to give the bombardiers a better chance to hit their targets. And you know what? It fucking worked really well. LeMay also increased accuracy by making sure the best bombardiers were in the front of the fortress. When the lead man would drop bombs, it gave the cue for the planes in the rear to follow suit, increasing the chances of more accuracy. LeMay also developed the concept of stacking the plane's formations. The three formations were in a cone shaped, with the lead bomber at the front. Behind them would be a slightly higher formation and a slightly lower formation trailing third. This was so that 50 caliber weapons could cover thousands of yards of air in any direction. It's hella smart. LeMay also had General Haywood Hansel at his side, who was considered nothing less than a genius.
Yeah.
Now, all of these good fortunes were making for perfect timing because the next target for the 8th Air Force was none other than Germany. And that's where we'll pick back up next time on the Masters of the Air series.
Woo! Yeah, the LeMay Hansel's like the other. Which one was the rich boy? Was LeMay the rich boy?
I didn't
No,
get
I think he was the up and coming guy. He came from nothing. Like
Yeah, no,
farmers,
LeMay
like
is a legit person.
So then Hansel was the guy who was like from,
like well-to-do.
well, he's from a military family, like a famous military family.
No, so LeMay was from a famous military
Okay, so he's from
family.
the famous military
Yeah,
family. So
yeah.
him and Hansel are like complete opposite guys, which I've always found really interesting. Like they would yell at each other in the meetings and stuff. Yeah, LeMay is interesting with that tactic.
Yeah.
It is weird though because they have such a little data set that because it worked, they're like, oh shit, it works, and so they just started doing it, and it doesn't work every time. Like
No.
it's not a perfect strategy,
No.
and they can get tore up doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But he is fucking smart. Like, because I remember that scene. He's like, he did the math, and he's like, all right, they have this % chance of taking out our combat wing,
Mhm.
and
Yeah, he was like damn near like a combat engineer.
Yes.
Like the idea of stacking the formations so that you could shoot in thousands of yards in all directions, that's hella smart.
yeah. So that's the combat wing, guys. Like, so that's where the combat wing is really going to, the little decisions you make with 100 or 200 planes, although they're flying pretty low planes sort of at this point because they're running out of resources because everyone's going to North Africa.
Yeah.
But those little decisions they're making are having huge impacts because you're having all of your flight groups that are in the combat wing do it. I really, really like the best bomber is in the front fortress of the combat wing.
Yeah.
And everybody else is not allowed to look at their northern sights. I don't even know if they have them. They have to look at just
When that guy drops it, that's our chance.
And
Yeah.
they hated it, the bombers.
Yeah, because it made them feel like left out.
Yeah,
like
they're
they
like,
weren't a part of it.
I'm not doing anything.
Mhm.
And he's like, well, it works. So
Yeah, I don't give a fuck what you feel. This is accurate. This is helping. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this series. We've been looking hella forward to doing this. It's been like 3 weeks of us just like anticipating this moment. So thank you for being here. Thank you to our Patreon subscribers. Tell your friends if you like the content, share it with them.
Seriously, thank you guys for everything. Like,
Yeah.
the Patreon stuff, because Spencer and I have jobs, so like we're just putting all this, any support that we're getting, we're just throwing right back into the podcast
100%.
to like help grow it.
Yeah.
For as long as we need to do that.
Yep.
Because we really, 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 really fucking appreciate it. Like, I can't believe how much support we get.
Yeah, it's
from
awesome.
everybody.
It's been really cool to watch us see how much we've grown. We're coming up on 2 years in May.
That's crazy.
So that'll be cool, dude. And yeah, we appreciate the shit out of you guys. We got some really cool things happening this year. Please rate and review our show. Communicate with us. We love talking. We want to talk about this. Watch the show. Let's talk about the show.
Let's talk about the show.
And yeah, feel free to hit us up if you have any ideas about any stuff you want to hear. Or
Maybe we should do a watch party.
that'd be dope.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's figure out how the fuck to do that.
We can do it.
Like a Twitch situation?
Yeah.
Or?
Dude, we got a mixing board now. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
We can do whatever we want. So, yeah, look for the next episode for the weeks to come. We're gonna be covering this hella long book for you. We literally just did about less than 2 hours of 4 chapters that would have taken you like more than 5.
Dude,
If
try to read this book sometime. It's wild.
It is a wild book. But holy shit, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you. And until next time, bonsai.